Okay, so we left off and with our image leaving like this. So now we're going to do the picture borders and the shading. So where we're at right here is we have all three, this picture was here, so we have all three of these, all four of these pictures layers lit up. So select the top layer and we're going to do Control Shift N for a new layer. This new layer you can label to be your border. So I just labeled black border solid, okay, which I already have here. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to fill in this border to match just this. So the easiest way to do that is go to your marquee tool, the rectangle marquee tool, and select the inside border. Make sure that your feather ratio is at 0 pixels before you do this. Okay, after you select that, right click, do select inverse, and now it just highlighted all 75 pixels all the way around your picture. What you want to do is you also want to add this these two borders here. So hold down, let's see, so hold down the shift key and you see that there's a plus sign that goes next to the cursor. So this is going to add an additional selection area. If you hold the Alt key, a minus sign goes and it's going to take away any selection area. So we'll hold the Shift key and we'll just highlight inside here and inside here. Okay, and then make sure we're on black for our color. Choose the paint bucket and just paint inside this, and that will give you this border. And then you can deselect. So quick selection for deselect is Control D and it'll deselect whatever area you have selected. Okay, so at this point you should have this right here. Now what we want to do is we want to add the center blue stripe that you have in here. So we're going to do Control Shift N for a new layer. That will be this blue stripe right here, which I already have the layer here. You can name it whatever you want. We're going to get the color that we want. So you're saying you want it to match it to this blanket. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to switch off the black because we're going to use that again. So this would actually be white in your case. We're going to use the eyedropper tool and we're going to sample this blanket. Now before you do that, you need to make sure that your sample here is current layer and not all layers, because you want to sample only this one layer you're working with. So make sure that's selected, and then you want the sample size to be 5x5 is usually pretty good depending on what you're sampling. Point sample is 1 pixel, 3x3 is 3x3 pixels, 5x5 is 5x5 pixels, and so forth. And basically all it does is it takes the pixels within that square and it averages the colors together and then gives you a color. So 5x5 is pretty good, and then we just select an area. And then so what you can see here is when you hold down the left mouse button, you get this circle around it. So now if you just click a spot, it selects the color. You see that it selected the color here. So now if you go back, what you can do is if you click and hold the button down, the circle stays up. If you're moving around, it's actually probably helpful if I'm on the picture. If you're moving around, the bottom button is the current color you have selected. I mean, the bottom of the circle is the current color, the top of the circle is the new color. So you can just move it around and it'll change the color and I'll let you see it. So you can sit here and move it up this blanket till you get to a color that you think matches best, because there's different colors with the different shading and texture and so forth within this blanket. So you find something that's going to work for you that you think is best, and then we can use that color for our stripe. So then we'll get off of this picture, we'll go back to our new layer, we're going to get our rectangular marquee tool and we're going to just highlight inside these two guides and go to our paint bucket and we're just going to fill this. And after we fill that, we should have this. So now your picture should look just like this. So now this looks okay, but it looks too blocked together. We need to do some other changes. We need to figure out what we need to be changing here or what we need to be changing here, and in this case I feathered in the outside. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, before we do that, let's fix this picture. Sorry. Okay, so go back to this picture. So what we have here is we have this picture, and before you had stretched this picture across, which distorted the picture of the baby here. So what we have here is dead space, and we need to figure out what we want to put in this space. And in this case, I just continued this gradient flow right here to match over here. So the easiest way to do that is select this picture, go to your rectangle marquee tool, and inside, not on this side of the picture, but inside where there's color, highlight the top and just go to the bottom to the guide and right to the edge so you get all this picture. And then you're going to hold the Alt key, press, go back to your move tool, hold down the Alt key and just move this over. And you can see it just moves a copy. And what we're going to do is we're going to place this just right next to, even a little bit over. Whoops. I actually made a couple copies. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So make a copy, just put it over, and then still on the move tool, we're going to left click this corner, which gets us into the transform control. We're going to right click this corner and flip horizontal, and what that did is that made the gradient match with this, and then we're going to stretch this to the end of this run here and accept the transform and deselect it. And now what you have is you have this gradient that comes in and then goes right back out, so it looks like it was made to go ahead and be doing that. So we'll go back to our layers, and since I already have that on, I'll put it back. Okay, so now this picture looks halfway decent, but we still need to do something else with this black border. And in this case, what I was doing is adding a feathered effect on the outside. So what I want to do is go to your border and start a new layer. Do Control Shift N and name the new layer something else, black border 45 pixels, because this is what I feathered it at. And what we're going to do is go to your marquee tool, change your feather to 45 pixels, and I picked 45 pixels because this is 75 pixels wide, so I did 45, so that's just a little more than half, and that's what I want. So select this inner guides and right select and select inverse, and you can see it's got a rounded corner, it's already feathered. And what we're going to do is switch back to the black, go to the paint tool and paste that in, and what that's going to give you is this. Now this looks pretty decent like this, but what you don't really see until you save this as a JPEG is you can see all the edge of this picture, and it's really pronounced. So, and you wouldn't know that until after you save the picture and you looked at it. So this is really pronounced, and you don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another border at half the pixels, and that's going to darken this up, and it's still going to give us this feather effect out here from our first one. So we're going to do a new layer, Control Shift N, and we're going to go back to our marquee tool, change from 45 down to 20, down to 20, and same thing. We're going to select the inside of this, right click, select inverse, and paint bucket with the black and fill that, and that's going to give you this. So now you have a faded, you have a darker black that covers the edges of these pictures, and you have a fade into look, and you can see a little bit of the pictures in this fade. So now it looks like that this border is starting to be made for this. And so from this point you can merge these three layers together if you wanted. You can highlight all of them and then Control E, it'll merge them. I leave all the layers separate in case you want to change something. So say like this fade, this 45 fade, let's say you wanted to do something else with it, you can add an effects, and let's say we just want to change the color. So we color overlay it, and now it's a red. But we didn't change the color of it. The color of it is still black. We just use an effects on it. So just in case you wanted to do something else like that, and then you can turn the effects off, and it's still the black border that's right there. Okay, so that will take care of this borders and shading, the blue stripe, and in the next tutorial we'll add in the text and the effects that for the text and how to go through all that.